Bangladesh, a land born from the fight for equality and self-determination, was founded on secular principles in 1971. The constitution promised freedom of religion for all. However, this secular foundation began to crack. In 1988, Islam was declared the state religion, marking a stark shift from the nation's founding ideals. This change had profound consequences for religious minorities, particularly the Hindu community. The declaration of Islam as the state religion emboldened extremist elements within society. It also created a climate of fear and uncertainty for religious minorities. The promise of equality enshrined in the Constitution was fading. The seeds of discrimination and violence were sown. In 1974, the Vested Property Act dealt a devastating blow to religious minorities. This act allowed the government to seize property belonging to Hindus and other minorities, labeling them as enemies of the state. Thousands of acres of land were confiscated, leaving countless families displaced and economically vulnerable. The Vested Property Act was a blatant act of discrimination. It was used as a tool to marginalize and disenfranchise minorities, particularly Hindus. The act legitimized the seizure of property based solely on religious identity. This law has had a lasting impact on the socio-economic conditions of minorities in Bangladesh. Following the political turmoil of August 2024, which saw the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh witnessed a disturbing surge in violence against minorities. The power vacuum created an environment of lawlessness and emboldened extremist groups. Temples were vandalized and destroyed, homes were attacked, and places of worship were desecrated. The Hindu community, already vulnerable, became easy targets. Fear and insecurity gripped minority communities, forcing many to flee their homes in search of safety. Section 4. International Outrage. A global call for justice. The violence and persecution of minorities in Bangladesh have not gone unnoticed. International human rights organizations have condemned the attacks and called for justice. Protests have erupted worldwide, demanding an end to the violence and accountability for the perpetrators. The arrest of Chinmoy Krishna Das, a senior ISKCON chairman on sedition charges, further fueled international outrage. The arrest, seen by many as an attack on religious freedom, sparked protests and demonstrations across the globe. The international community is watching, and the pressure on the Bangladeshi government to act is mounting. Section 5. Empty promises and a culture of impunity. The Bangladeshi government has promised to investigate the violence and bring the perpetrators to justice. However, these promises ring hollow in the face of a deeply entrenched culture of impunity. The lack of accountability for past atrocities has only emboldened the perpetrators. The failure to address the root causes of the violence, such as discriminatory laws and hate speech, has allowed the cycle of violence to continue. The international community must hold the Bangladeshi government accountable for its promises and demand concrete action to protect its minority citizens. Section 6. Raise your voice, break the silence. The plight of minorities in Bangladesh is a stain on the conscience of humanity. We cannot and must not remain silent in the face of such injustice. It is our collective responsibility to speak out against persecution and demand justice for the victims. Share these stories, raise awareness on social media, and contact your elected representatives. Let us amplify the voices of the oppressed and demand an end to the violence and discrimination. The fight for justice requires a global effort, and each one of us has a role to play.